There are moments when the air grows heavy, even without a storm. Moments when the soul senses a trembling that the eyes cannot see. Moments when heaven whispers and only the awake can hear. Something is happening now that few perceive. Something subtle, silent, almost imperceptible to those who vivem correndo, mas devastador para aqueles que entendem os movimentos do espírito. It is as if a thin line of light has begun to separate what sempre pareceu misturado. Not a line drawn by human hands, but by a purpose older than time. There is a shift unfolding across hearts, across homes, across nations. It moves quietly, like dawn rising behind the mountains, before anyone notices the sky has changed color. It is the invisible phenomenon that precedes every divine intervention, the gentle yet firm rearranging of what belongs to light and what insists on permanecer na sombra. Many think life is continuing as usual, repeating the same words, the same routines, the same religious comfort. But beneath the surface, the spirit is reaching deeper, testing foundations, measuring motives, distinguishing the vessels that carry oil from those that only carry appearance. Look closely and you will feel it. Churches filled with voices but lacking surrender. Hearts speaking the language of faith but trembling before obedience. Lives that shine on the outside while fading inside. And in contrast, pessoas discretas, desconhecidas, quase invisíveis aos olhos do mundo, mas cujo coração pulsa com amor que o céu reconhece. There is a quiet shift, a silent sorting, a sacred unveiling happening beneath the noise. It is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is precise. This phenomenon is not a punishment. It is a preparation. It is the moment before the moment, the threshold where the eternal begins to press against the temporary. It is the soft thunder of heaven calling sleepers to awaken. And though many ignore it, though many mock it, though many rewrite it to fit their comfort, the separation continues. Like light filtering through a window, revealing dust no one noticed before, the Spirit is exposing where faith is real and where faith is nothing more than routine. There are souls being stirred without knowing why, tears que surgem sem explicação, uma inquietação que não se apaga, a sensação de que algo maior está em movimento. These are not coincidences, they are signals. They are the subtle steps of a divine alignment that always precedes a great unveiling. Every time God moved in history, a quiet separation happened first, not with noise but with clarity, not with fear but with truth. And this time, the separation is more intimate than ever. It is happening inside thoughts, inside decisions, inside the hidden chambers of the heart, that secret place where no mask survives. The invisible phenomenon is not an external event, it is an internal awakening. It is the Spirit whispering, "Choose what lasts." It is a call to loosen the grip on what is fading and strengthen the grip on what is eternal. The world sees randomness, heaven sees fulfillment, the world sees chaos, heaven sees rearrangement, the world sees routine. Heaven sees prophecy unfolding in silence. Do not mistake this moment. Do not call it emotion, coincidence, or imagination. What is stirring in the deep is intentional. What is shifting around you and within you is deliberate. What seems subtle is actually sacred. The separation has begun, gentle, precise, unstoppable, and as this invisible phenomenon expands, it prepares the stage for the next revelation, the next warning, the next movement of the one whose words carry eternity inside them. This is not coincidence. It is prophecy, and the transition has already started. The invisible separation grows clearer. That gentle line drawn by the Spirit now begins to feel like a weight pressing on the soul, urging reflection, urging honesty, urging surrender. What started as a whisper now ressoa como chamado interior que ninguém pode ignorar para sempre. Something is dividing motives, exposing intentions, distinguishing devotion from convenience. And if the first movement revealed that something unseen is happening, this second movement unveils the voice behind it. For as this quiet phenomenon unfolds, the words of Jesus begin to echo with a clarity many nunca overum de verdade. Not quotations recited by memory, but the living tone behind them, the warning that was not meant to frighten, but to despertar. Imagine his voice, firm yet full of compassion, speaking not to condemn, but to shake hearts free from illusions. He spoke of a path that seems wide, but leads to emptiness, and another path estreito, silencioso, que poucos escolhem, mas que conduz à vida. He told stories about people who thought they were ready, but whose lamps were empty, because their hearts had long settled into comfort. He described servants who moved with urgency and others who waited too long, distraídos pela ideia de que ainda não era a hora. His warnings were not threats. They were rescue lines thrown before the tide came in. He knew the human heart drifts easily toward routines that feel spiritual but lack surrender, and so he called again and again for wakefulness. Today, those ancient warnings breathe with new intensity. The invisible phenomenon that stirs the soul is the very reality he described in his stories. Churches make noise, but many hearts remain untouched. People speak of heaven while clinging fiercely to what is passing. Many say, "I'm fine," while ignoring the vacuum inside. It is the comfort of routine disguised as faith, the illusion of readiness born from repetition rather than transformation. And as Jesus' words unfold in narrative form, imagine the scenes he painted. A wedding procession in the night, where the ones who carried oil were not the ones who spoke the loudest, but the ones who prepared in silence. A field where two worked side by side, indistinguishable, until the moment destiny drew its line. A house where the faithful servant stayed awake while others convinced themselves that delay was safety. These images were never meant to decorate religious memory. They were meant to confront the soul with urgency and tenderness. The phenomenon happening now, this internal trembling, this separation of motives, reflects those stories. The heart that once felt numb now senses a pull toward the secret place. The person who relied on appearance begins to feel exposed. The one who walked casually reaches a crossroads, and slowly the spirit reveals that neutrality is no longer sustainable. Comfort is becoming a trap. Familiarity is becoming a sedative. Distraction is becoming a veil. Jesus warned about this moment in ways that bypass logic and go diretto ao espirito. His voice repeats, "Stay awake. Guard your heart. Do not assume you are ready simply because you are familiar with my words." And those who listen begin to see the truth behind their own routines. They notice the dryness hidden under their prayers. They sense the distance beneath their worship. They feel the hunger rising again, as if something long adormecido está despertando. This is the warning, gentle yet decisive. A voice calling through the noise of religion, breaking illusions, stirring hearts back to life. It is not a shout. It is a firmness wrapped in love. It says, "You are losing your oil without noticing." It says, "You are drifting while thinking you are standing." It says, "The door does not wait for indecision." And while the world continues in its cycle of distraction, the invisible phenomenon continues unfolding like the slow opening of a prophetic curtain. Those who listen sense the weight of destiny in the air. Those who resist cling to the illusion of routine. But the separation moves forward, revealing who walks awake and who sleepwalks through spiritual reality. This is the warning, and it is happening now. There are seasons when the soul feels pressed from every side, when familiar things slip through the fingers and silence replaces what once felt safe. Many look at these moments and think they are signs of rejection, failure, or abandonment. But in the realm of the Spirit, such moments are often the refining chambers of God, not punishment, but preparation. The invisible phenomenon that began with separation and warning now unfolds into a deeper process, the test of the heart and the purification of the inner life. This refining does not come with loud storms or dramatic announcements. It comes with subtle shifts that unsettle the soul. Friendships dissolve without explanation. Opportunities close as if a hidden hand redirected the path. Comforts that once felt natural suddenly become tight, como rupas que ya no serving. And in the silence that follows, the heart discovers what it truly leans on. Many interpret this isolation as loss, but heaven sees it as invitation, a drawing closer, a stripping of noise, a clarifying of devotion. Imagine the ancient scenes that echo this pattern. A man building a vessel on dry land, while the world laughed around him, not knowing that his obedience in isolation was forging his survival. A family leaving a burning city while everything familiar pulled them backward, with one heart divided, turning into a warning for generations. These stories are not relics. They are mirrors. They reveal that before every divine intervention, God refines the ones he calls. He removes the unnecessary, tests the motives, and reveals the core of the heart. The refining often feels like a wind that shakes everything not rooted in truth. It blows through habits, relationships, and desires, exposing what cannot stand. Then comes the fire, not a fire that destroys, but one that purifies. It burns away the disguises we wore to impress others. It consumes the illusions we built to protect our pride. It softens the hardened places we resisted surrendering. And after the fire, a holy silence settles in, not as emptiness, but as clarity. In that silence, the soul hears what noise had always hidden. If you feel the weight of separation, if you feel isolated from what once defined you, if you feel stripped of the familiar, you may be inside this divine refining. The Spirit is not pushing you away. He is preparing you. He is revealing the difference between what you thought you needed and what truly sustains you. This is not rejection. It is refinement. The gold is not discarded when it enters the fire, it is honored. The fire is the testimony that it carries value. Sometimes God hides you to heal you. Sometimes he removes people to protect you. Sometimes he delays answers to mature you. Sometimes he allows the storm to expose the foundation. And sometimes he brings silence so his whisper can finally be heard again. The refining is not a punishment. It is a love that refuses to let you remain half awake, half surrendered, half transformed. Those who feel this process deeply often think they are behind, but in truth, they are being brought ahead. The ones who struggle honestly, who feel the tension, who sense the shaking, these are the ones being prepared for a greater unveiling. The pressure on your soul is not crushing you. It is shaping you. The isolation is not abandonment. It is alignment. The emptiness is not loss. It is space being cleared for what is holy. Hold fast in this hour. The refining does not last forever, but it always leaves the soul transformed. It produces a clarity that cannot be mimicked, a steadfastness that cannot be shaken, a purity that cannot be counterfeited. And it prepares the heart for the next movement in this prophetic unfolding. The exposure of the final trap, the subtle deception that seeks to lull the world into spiritual sleep. Stand firm, breathe deep. The refining is sacred, and it leads to a faith that endures when the final test comes. There is a danger more subtle than storms, more silent than darkness, more deadly than opposition. It is the quiet comfort that slowly wraps itself around the soul until vigilance fades and the spirit falls asleep. After the refining comes the unveiling of the trap, the soft lullaby crafted not to frighten, but to soothe. This is the final test, the deception that does not look like rebellion, but like safety, not like evil, but like ease. The enemy rarely approaches with threats when he can approach with convenience. He rarely destroys with force when he can destroy with distraction. And now, in this prophetic hour, the greatest danger is not persecution, but spiritual sedation. a gentle drifting, a warm numbness, a false sense of readiness that whispers, "You're fine, you already know enough, you already do enough, there is no need to press deeper." Undi, this is the lullaby that puts lamps to sleep, drains the oil drop by drop, and blinds the heart to the urgency of the moment. Imagine the stories Jesus told, not as distant parables, but as living mirrors. A group of bridesmaids waiting in the night, all carrying lamps, all dressed for the celebration, all looking ready from the outside. Yet only half carried oil that endured the delay. The others carried lamps that shined for a moment, but faded when the darkness lengthened. Their downfall was not rebellion, it was assumption. They believed readiness was appearance. They believed proximity was preparation. They believed yesterday's flame was enough for today's night. Or think of the woman who walked out of a burning city, yet couldn't let go of the life she left behind. Her steps moved forward, but her heart turned back. She became a symbol of divided allegiance, walking toward salvation while longing for the comfort that once trapped her. Her fall was not caused by hatred of God, but by attachment to what God had already left behind. This is the deception that destroys quietly. And remember the warm, self-assured community that believed they needed nothing, neither correction nor awakening. They thought abundance meant closeness to God, unaware that their comfort had become a veil over their spiritual poverty. Their danger was not external attack, but internal blindness. This is the pattern repeating now: comfort disguising captivity, confidence disguising complacency. The deception of this hour is not loud sin. It is subtle illusion. It is a spirituality without surrender. It is busyness without intimacy. It is religion that keeps the hands full, but the heart empty. It is a faith that speaks but does not burn. It is the gentle voice that says, "There is no need to examine yourself. You are already ready." And that voice is the most dangerous one. Look closely, and you will notice the signs. The heart that once trembled now becomes casual with holy things. The prayers that once had depth become mechanical whispers. The hunger that once stirred now fades into habit. The urgency that once awakened now dissolves into distraction. This is how the enemy works in the final hour, not by attacking the lamp, but by convincing the heart that oil is unnecessary. And yet the Spirit calls again, examine your heart, not with fear, but with clarity. Not to condemn, but to awaken. Ask yourself, does my flame still burn? Am I awake or merely functioning? Am I carrying oil or only carrying appearance? Am I longing for the bridegroom or for the comfort I do not want to lose? This final test is not about perfection, it is about truth. The ones who endure are not the ones who look flawless, but the ones who stay awake, the ones who refuse the lullaby, the ones who resist the comfort that blinds. The ones who choose clarity over convenience, surrender over routine, intimacy over assumption. The hour is delicate, the deception is gentle, the danger is real, and the call is urgent. Wake up now. Do not wait for the door to reveal what the heart refused to see. Do not allow the lullaby to silence your longing. The final test has begun, and only the awake will recognize it. When the heart awakens to the invisible separation, when the soul feels the refining fire, and when the final deception becomes clear, a question rises naturally. How do I live in this hour? How do I keep the flame of the Spirit alive when the world around me grows cold and the lullaby of ease hums in every direction? The answer is not found in frantic effort, nor in mechanical routines, but in a return to intimacy, a quiet, steady feeding of the oil that sustains the inner flame. This oil is formed in places where applause cannot reach. It grows in the whispered prayers that come before dawn, when the heart speaks honestly and heaven bends low. It grows in moments of humble confession, when the soul stops pretending and simply opens itself before the one who already sees everything. It grows in the small fasts, where the body's demands are silenced for a moment, so the Spirit can breathe. It grows in the simple act of sitting before the Word, not to accumulate information, but to encounter the voice behind the text. And it grows in silence, that holy space where distractions fade and the presence of God becomes real again. To walk awake in this hour is not to live perfectly, but to live intentionally. It is to choose depth over noise. It is to slow down internally, even when life speeds up externally. It is to guard the heart from becoming heavy with the clutter of the world. And above all, it is to remain tender, because a tender heart hears God quickly, while a hardened heart only hears itself. Imagine a young mother who once prayed with fire but slowly became overwhelmed by routine. One day, in the quiet of a tired evening, she felt a small tug inside, a reminder of the love she once carried. She whispered a simple prayer, barely audible, yet it reignited a spark. Over days, that spark grew into a flame again, not because she changed her entire life, but because she opened the door of her heart 1 inch at a time. Imagine an older man who spent years relying on religious habits, but felt numb inside. One night, while listening to a message he had heard 1,000 times before, something broke open in him. He realized he had been living from memory, not from intimacy. He placed his hand on his chest and said, "God, I want to feel you again." That honest desire became the beginning of his restoration. Imagine a young believer surrounded by distractions who suddenly noticed how dry his soul had become. He turned off the noise even for a few minutes and sat in silence. For the first time in a long time, he felt peace. That peace became a doorway to awakening. These stories are not dramatic, but they are real. They are the kinds of transformations that begin quietly, almost unnoticed, yet change everything. Because in this hour, it is not grand gestures that keep the lamp burning. It is small, consistent choices of surrender. And this is why the separation of this season is mercy. It is not meant to frighten. It is meant to protect. God is not exposing dryness to shame the soul. He is exposing it so he can fill it. He is not allowing discomfort to punish. He is using it to steer the heart back to what matters. The refining is not a rejection of who you are, but a restoration of who you were meant to be. So walk gently, but walk awake. Keep your heart soft. Keep your spirit listening. Lean into prayer when you feel weak. Lean into confession when you feel lost. Lean into silence when the world becomes loud. Lean into the word when your mind becomes scattered. Lean into worship even when your emotions feel empty. Each of these moments pours oil into the lamp, 1 drop at a time. Let this be the hour when your flame grows brighter, not dimmer. Let this be the moment when your heart returns to its first love. Let this be the season when you choose relationship over routine, surrender over assumption, and intimacy over appearance. The call is not to panic, but to awaken, and to remain awake. The bridegroom is nearer than we imagine, and those who keep their lamps filled will recognize his footsteps even before the world sees his light. In the end, everything that felt heavy begins to make sense. The separation was never punishment, it was mercy. The refining was never rejection, it was preparation. The warning was never meant to frighten, it was meant to awaken. Every whisper, every shaking, every silent correction was the hand of a loving God drawing his people nearer, not pushing them away. The time is short, the signs grow clear, the bridegroom is closer than breath. The time is short. The heart must stay awake. The time is short. The flame must keep burning. Let these words settle deep within you, not to create fear, but to create focus, not to produce panic, but to produce purity. You were created for this hour. You were called for this season. You were shaped for a love that the world cannot offer and darkness cannot imitate. The signs are clear. The light is rising. The veil is thinning. The signs are clear. The soul can feel what the eyes cannot yet see. The signs are clear. Heaven is moving even when earth remains distracted. So stand with hope, stand with tenderness, stand with a heart that refuses to sleep. You do not walk alone, you do not wait alone, you do not fight alone. Heaven walks with the ones who choose to stay awake. Heaven fills the lamps of those who refuse the lullaby. Heaven embraces the hearts that choose truth over comfort. Stay awake, stay pure, stay ready, stay awake even when others drift. Stay pure even when compromise feels safe. Stay ready even when delay tries to dull your longing. Let this be the cry of your spirit. Keep my flame alive. Let this be the song of your soul. Do not let me fall asleep. Let this be the posture of your life. I will wait with oil in my hands. And as the world grows colder, let your heart grow warmer. As the night deepens, let your flame rise higher. As distractions multiply, let your focus sharpen. As the door draws near, let your love burn brighter. Because this is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of the unveiling. Not the fading of hope, but the awakening of it. Not the silence of abandonment, but the silence before glory. Lift your head, strengthen your heart, let your oil overflow. The bridegroom is coming, the footsteps are near, and those who watch with love will recognize him first.